Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, and welcome to another Star Wars Jedi Survivor video. Now for today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys some early game tips and tricks that I wish I knew about sooner in my playthrough for Jedi Survivor. These are all tips you're going to find pretty useful within the first 10 to 15 hours of your playthrough, and a big thanks to the EA Creator Network for giving me an early code to let me play a little bit early, that way I was able to make this video for you guys. But before we jump into the tips, I just wanted to announce the winner of the Jedi Survivor giveaway that I did, Taz2418, you were selected as the winner, so be sure to check your email. Thank you to everyone that entered the giveaway, and keep an eye out here in the near future for another Star Wars Jedi Survivor giveaway. Alright, so jumping right into the tips, the first tip that I want to give you all for Star Wars Jedi Survivor is to actually not explore. Now I know it's super tempting to explore. I do it in pretty much every single video game. I know a lot of you guys like exploring as well. I'm the type of player that likes to do all of these side objectives first, and then I'm extremely overpowered for the main storyline's boss fight. That's just the kind of player I am. I've always been that way, and I always will be. But it definitely didn't pay off in Jedi Survivor. This game is designed for you to backtrack, and I probably wasted at least 2 to 3 hours just going around exploring, when 90% of the time most of the areas that you stumble across you're not even going to be able to access until you unlock some abilities later on. So for example, the starting world is Coruscant, and there are a lot of side paths that you can go on, but there are a lot of locked doors that you're not going to be able to access. Same goes for the second planet of Kobo. While you're progressing through the main story, at a certain point on the map of Kobo, it is going to open up and become this giant open world experience, and as tempting as it is to run off and go exploring caves and different side objectives and stuff, I would hold off on doing all of that. I would just stick to the main story at least until you unlock your mount. Once you unlock the mount, a lot of different opportunities and paths and different objectives are going to become available to you on the map of Kobo. So a good general rule is to just stick to the main story until you unlock a lot of your abilities, and then go back to the previous planets to unlock some of the different doors that were locked, or reach high places that you couldn't normally get to. So next up, I want to talk about one of the big quality of life changes that Respawn made to the map in Jedi Survivor. Now in Jedi Fallen Order, one of the biggest complaints people had was that it was super easy to get lost. So in Jedi Survivor, they made a couple of big changes to the map to make it a little bit easier for you in case you get lost. So in Jedi Survivor, when you pull up the map, you probably notice that there's this little yellow line following your cursor on the map. So this little yellow line will follow your every move, and then if for some reason you get pretty lost, you can just check your map and then trace your steps backwards to help get yourself unlost. And then another quality of life change that they made to the in-game map is that you can now place markers anywhere you want. Maybe there's a side objective or a side mission you want to check out and you want to remember where it's at, or maybe there's a blocked door or hidden passageway that you can't quite access right away. You can just place a marker on it, and then you'll be able to find it a lot easier later on. So definitely take advantage of the new marker system. And then the next tip is for those of you that like to do a lot of exploring. When you take your cursor and you hover over different sections of your in-game map, the map is divided into a bunch of sections, and if you hover over top of each section and hit the X or the square button, it will bring up all of the collectibles that can be found in that area. So this is a great way to help you find some of the extra chests, the hidden force essence, hidden currencies that you can spend on vendors, and seed pods that you can collect for your garden. So up next, the next tip I have for you all is a pretty simple one, but it actually came in handy a couple times for my playthrough. And it's that once you defeat an enemy and you scan them with BD1, they will then show up in your tactical guide. And then in the tactical guide, it will give you tips on how to defeat these enemies in the future. So for example, when I defeated a flame trooper, it gave me the tip of the flame rifle requires a cooldown after use, close the distance and strike. And then for example, the purge trooper commander, it says they're dangerous from a distance, make attempts to close the distance quickly. And then the second tip is to avoid the shock grenade or use it to strike nearby stormtroopers. So the tactical guide is super handy at learning all of your enemy's weaknesses, and if you ever get stuck at any point, it's always a good idea to read the tactical guide for some quick combat tips. And then the next tip I have for you all has to do with the in-game skill points. Now in the game, there are a lot of skill points that you can unlock and upgrade. There's a survival perk tree, there's multiple lightsaber perk trees, and then there's multiple force perk trees. And in every single one of these perk trees, there are multiple perks that you can upgrade, and you're going to be spending a lot of skill points. But the tip I have for you all is that you can actually reset all your skills at any point. So for example, I was putting all of my perks into the single bladed lightsaber stance, and then later on, once I discovered the blaster stance, I was really enjoying the blaster stance and I was no longer using the single bladed lightsaber. So I just reset my skills and then put all those freed up skill points into my blaster stance skill tree. So at any point you want to reset your skills, you can do so. But do keep in mind that it says your first skill tree reset is free, and then after this, you spend 1 skill point to reset and refund all skill trees, but you will still keep any skills acquired in game. So you can technically do this unlimited times, but it is going to cost 1 of your skill points every time you go to reset. Which leads me into the next tip, which is you can always do some XP farming if you need a quick skill point. Now, just like with Jedi Fallen Order, anytime you rest at a meditation point, as soon as you're done resting, all of the enemies in the area will respawn. So if you find a meditation point that is close to some respawning enemies, this is a great way to farm some XP. All you have to do is rest, go kill the enemies, run back to the meditation point, and then wash, rinse, repeat. Now obviously it's going to be a lot faster to level up by just playing the game regularly, but if for some reason you're in a quick pinch and you really need 1 extra skill point, maybe you're wanting to reset all of your skills, and since that will cost you 1 skill point to do so, XP farming is going to be a great way to make back on that 1 skill point investment. Farming for XP definitely came in handy a couple times in my playthrough, especially when it came to some of that late game content and some of the harder boss battles. I was in dire need of a couple skill points, so I did a little bit of XP farming and then I was able to get through the area. So the next tip is a really quick one, and it's as soon as you get to the planet Kobo, you're going to notice some plants with some fireflies around them. These plants can all be harvested, and they don't explain to you that you can harvest seeds until a little later in the game. So as soon as you arrive on the planet Kobo, you're going to see a lot of these plants. I would just go ahead and harvest these whenever you see them. I had no idea that you could even destroy plants with your lightsaber until they explained it to me a little later on. So I highly recommend you save yourself some time and destroy these plants whenever you see them. And then the next tip is another small one, but just like in Jedi Fallen Order, anytime you're exploring around in the environment and you see BD1 hop off of your back, this means that there's something in the area that can be scanned. And there are a lot of things in the environment that you can scan, a lot of hidden objectives and lore things, so you're definitely going to want to keep an eye on BD1 when you're exploring. And then the next tip I have is that once you stop at a meditation point, if you need some extra combat practice, there is in fact a training meditation mode. This is basically just the weapons tutorial. If for some reason you suck at parrying or blocking, or you didn't play Jedi Fallen Order and you're just picking up on this game, this is a great way to practice all of your different skills and abilities. So I highly recommend you do the tutorial training in the meditation points. And then the next tip is a pretty simple one, but it's one that's often overlooked, and it's to check your in-game settings. Now there's actually a few in-game settings that can completely change your experience. There's a bunch of quality of life toggles, such as hold to pull. You can turn this on to pull things towards you with the push of a button. There's a slow mode option you can toggle on and off that will make combat always in slow motion. This is great for those that are struggling with some of the harder boss battles. And then you can turn up and down the slow dilation. And there's even an arachnophobia mode for those of you that are deadly afraid of spiders. You can turn this on and then you will no longer see any spiders in the game. Although I am about 15 plus hours into my playthrough and I've yet to see a single spider, so I'm not sure how many spiders are even in the game in general. And then the final quick tip that I have for you all has to do with one of the perks. Now I'm going to be making another video later on going over all of the best perks in the entire game, but there's one perk that you can get really early on in particular that I highly recommend you guys get. And it's under the survival tab of your perk tree, and it's called Focus Sight. Now it's going to cost you 2 skill points to get this ability, but I found that this perk is extremely handy in combat, especially when you're being overwhelmed by multiple enemies at the same time, or just a really annoying one-on-one boss fight. But what this does is lets you hold in the B button or the circle button, and you will automatically evade incoming melee attacks. Now this is going to take up your force meter, so you can't do it indefinitely, but it will dodge any attack that is thrown your way, even the red unblockable attacks. So if you have a really annoying enemy that you're going up against that likes to spam the unblockable moves, you can use this Foresight ability and you can dodge every single one of them. So this perk was a huge game changer for me. It made a lot of the harder enemies a lot easier in combat, and that's why I wanted to mention this one perk in particular in this video. So if this video helped you out, please give this video a thumbs up. It's greatly appreciated. I have a ton of Star Wars Jedi Survivor videos coming out here within the next couple days, so be sure to keep an eye out. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here, hit the bell for notifications, that way you guys don't miss out on any future videos. And that is going to do it for me, everyone, and I will talk to you all in the next video.